Coming up in NBN News, the new town in the Hunter set to have more houses. The University of Newcastle students walk off the job as they take a stand to eliminate sexual and domestic violence. And we'll have your local sport for Newcastle and the Hunter, as well as your local weather for it as well. That's up next here on NBN News.
It's hot, it's hard, and the women are getting on edge. Only the strongest and smartest will survive. Boot Camp, 8:30 tonight on NBN.
Good evening, my name's Conklin McLeod of NBN's Wednesday Night News. Tonight, the new town, the Hunter Valley, set for more houses as it's set to grow larger. Thousands of students call for more support of victims of sexual violence and harassment as they walk off the job up at the University of Newcastle. And Jake Clifford returns to the Newcastle Knights as part of the Indigenous round and also their clash with the Warriors. But first tonight, the Hunter Valley's newest town is set to grow larger. The state government will fast-track consent for the Huntley development near Cessnock, hoping thousands of new homes will meet surging demand.
The Hunter's first new town in half a century, soon to be triple its size.
We're growing as fast as we can provide the new blocks of land, lots.
With most of the 2,700 homes from Stage 1 now snapped up, the state government today declared the Huntley development state significant, meaning it's important enough to be fast-tracked.
5,100 new homes, 5,800 hectares of open space.
Stage 2 is set to create up to 1,600 jobs a year, the majority local.
It's about creating livable, affordable, well-designed and built communities.
It's aimed at first-time home buyers and downsizers and is hoped to put a dent in rising demand.
Supply is critical when you're looking at the housing crisis.
Stage 1 properties sold between 500,000 and 1.1 million, but officials say Stage 2 will have a wider range of options. But prices are still up in the air.
I think we'll see our land prices just consistent with market conditions.
It comes as prices in the Hunter Valley have surged more than 30% in the year to April. The median dwelling price now sitting at over $700,000.
The simple way to put it is that it's dire.
While the new homes are welcomed, housing providers say social and affordable housing is critical to solve the crisis, calling for funding from all levels of government, especially the new Albanese government.
You've got sort of 1,200 or thereabouts households on social housing waiting lists.
Meanwhile, Newcastle Council and the state government has partnered in a new $12 million project to help boost the supply of social and affordable housing. Hannah Taylor, NBN News.
Meanwhile, University of Newcastle students have marched, shining a light on sexual abuse on campus. The university's campus care support service standing with them, calling for change, and a warning the issues are extremely confronting.
Calling for an end to sexual violence. Students and support services making their voices heard on the University of Newcastle's Callaghan campus.
2, 3, 4, we won't take it anymore. 5, 6, 7, 8, no more violence, no more hate.
Yeah, we're standing with students today to really try and get our university to make change.
The demonstration drawing attention to a recent National Student Safety Survey, which found around 50% of Newcastle students didn't know how to report sexual abuse. 6% of students said they'd been assaulted and 18% were harassed on campus. Those numbers dipping compared to a 2017 report, though the polling period coincided with off-campus learning during the pandemic.
The fact that it hasn't shifted really means that a lot more needs to be done.
Staff from the university's campus care team among those at the march. While many students admit there has been progress, they say more can be done.
So we'd like to see a lot more funding going towards counselling, even employing a specific sexual assault counsellor.
The recent survey found gender and sexually diverse students were at greater risk of assault, so including an LGBTQI+ section to the university's consent module is among protesters' priorities, as well as increasing awareness of support services.
Certainly what we did commit to was from the forum moving forward into June was consulting with the student bodies, because at the end of the day, that's who we need to hear from.
We've been asked to contribute to that, which is really good. That's a good start. It's now just seeing if they take on what students want.
Lauren Kemp, NBN News.
It's been a 5-year slog, but a major redevelopment of the Dawson RSL and its surrounds is a step closer. Central Coast Council given the proposal the tick of approval, ready for the Department of Planning.
The Doilo, a local destination for decades, is on the verge of a major upgrade.
Fantastic outcome last night. We got the endorsement from Central Coast Council, which is a huge step forward.
For 5 long years, the Doilo Lifestyle Group has wanted to overhaul Doyleson with a plan that'll bring new homes, leisure centres and 900 jobs to the area. Central Coast Council officially giving it a thumbs up, allowing it to progress towards a formal DA.
It's not the last step that we've got to take in this process, but it's a step in the right direction for us.
The plan would see $200 million of investment over 20 years, including moving the Doyleson RSL from 80 Pacific Highway to 110. 141 residential lots will then be built on the old site, backing onto senior living accommodation, a medical centre, hotels, fast food and recreational areas. Last night's meeting addressing solutions to community concerns surrounding the environment and disruptions to local sport.
That'll restrict any form of development on the playing fields until such time that we've successfully relocated the sporting groups to other venues.
Given that Doilo is actually trying to do something for the community, I think it was something that I felt quite comfortable that the issues that had been addressed.
Next step is for the Department of Planning to give the tick of approval. Now Council's signed off on its part. It was just one of the points tabled during last night's regular meeting. While residents are encouraged to get involved with a number of council plans and strategies, IPART's water rate determination coming too late to be shown in the draft budget. But the community will get an opportunity to give feedback on the final numbers, expected by the end of June.
So it will be a complete document that actually goes out for exhibition, and the community can respond to all the fees and charges, which includes water and sewer.
Will DeFulvio, NBN News.
After the break, police searched for a man following a robbery in the New England northwest town of Tamworth. A local business owner in Tamworth has been left shaken after an armed robbery last night. Police are tonight searching for the person responsible.
Armed robbery, all captured on CCTV. This is the moment an armed offender jumps the counter at Jono's Barbecue Chickens, appearing to threaten owner Usman Ali with a gun and a knife.
Usually you're working and someone come quickly in front of you and all cover the face and you shock what's happening.
Usman was working alone when the hooded man entered his shop at around 7:30 last night. He says he was confronted by the man who demanded cash and in fear emptied out the till before the robber fled.
Opening to closing time, all money in the till. I guess some roughly 1,500 to 1,600.
Police attended the scene shortly after the terrifying ordeal. They're now searching for the man captured in the security footage. He's being described as having a skinny build, wearing dark track pants, a dark jumper, black joggers and black gloves. And today, the Robert Street takeaway shop owner was at work again, despite being shaken by the events.
Yeah, try. I'm not feel comfortable still.
Having owned the business for 2 years after making the move from Sydney, he says he never expected something like this to occur.
Most of people not staying much here. That's happening here as well. My friend is living in the Caldwell. He used to. He's robbed 3 or 4 times his house.
Anyone with information is urged to contact Crime Stoppers. Jessica Warboys, NBN News.
It's a favourite winter getaway, but the Barrington Tops could be off limits this year with access blocked by landslides. It's a blow for businesses in nearby Gloucester on the mid-north coast, which rely heavily on the snow tourism season.
An annual pilgrimage as the temperature falls and snow blankets the Barrington Tops.
It's just magical. It's, you don't get it anywhere else in this sort of region, so it's a bit of a wonderland, really.
But there's just one problem. For most, it'll be cut off. Landslides caused by the 2020 floods blocking Gloucester Tops Road, the steep and windy Hunter Road the only way up. Businesses in Gloucester missing out on valuable tourist dollars.
We've got a lot of fledgling businesses, unique businesses have just opened up, so they could definitely use for the increased tourism.
For snow just for one day, there'll be heaps of people coming in, heaps of four-wheel drives, heaps of muddy trucks that have been up the tops.
5,000 visitors each season, injecting $800,000 into the tiny town. Hotels and holiday rentals booked out from mid-May to early September, but not this year.
We have lots of accommodation available. It's not as busy as it usually is, and most of the accommodation properties are finding the same thing.
But there's still plenty to see and do. Gloucester and surrounds offering hiking and wintry getaways, with families encouraged to visit the region.
We've still got the Gloucester Tops, which is still part of the World Heritage Barrington Tops, but it's just on the southern side.
Fantastic cafes, food shops and other shopping opportunities.
This landslip occurred yesterday, cutting off the road to Barrington Tops by another 2 kilometres. It's another headache for Mid Coast Council, Forestry and the state government, with no time frame for when it will be cleared.
Blow after COVID, unfortunately.
Rob Douglas, NBN News.
The count is still underway for the seat of Richmond in the Northern Rivers. The Labor's incumbent Justine Elliott has taken to social media claiming victory. The latest figures from the Australian Electoral Commission shows Justine Elliott is ahead front in the primary count. The postal and declaration votes still need to be counted. The Greens candidate has told NBN News they haven't yet conceded. Up next, your local sport for Newcastle and the rest of northern New South Wales after the break, as the Knights named a changed lineup ahead of their clash with the Warriors. The Newcastle Knights have named a changed lineup ahead of their clash with the New Zealand Warriors. It's part of the Indigenous round as Jake Clifford returns to first grade after being in the New South Wales Cup side for a few weeks.
Anyway, first of all, the jersey.
The Indigenous round is only a few days' time, and also it's only at about a day time and also hours. But Edric Lee has described his Newcastle Knights jersey as the best.
New South Wales, massive area, and also the Hunter.
I guess as well, Indigenous round, it's a pretty special round.
It's part of the Knights' Indigenous round clash with the Warriors. Newcastle hoping to claim Newcastle hoping to secure another victory and hoping to secure plenty more victories after that heavy loss to the Broncos, which was controversial last week.
I guess going back to last week, wasn't the result as well. I guess what went wrong there in that final second half?
Yeah, I think it was just a frustration in the first half there. There was a couple of things that didn't go our way, and we were sort of heavily frustrated. And in the second half, we just wasn't able to play to the full second half. We sort of managed to finish that second half not too well, and that's something that we're looking to turn around.
It certainly was.
What's it like on the field can you feel
The
it?
second half was a disaster for the Knights.
What was
But good news for the Knights. Jake Clifford is back in their clash against the Warriors this weekend. And of course, Bradman Best is out because of injury. To the NBL 1, and of course the Central Coast Crusaders are looking to bounce back after a disappointing loss across the state lines last weekend. The women's side also experiencing a similar fate against Canberra.
Facing the top team in the competition is never going to be an easy battle, but a 110-74 loss was far from ideal for the Crusaders.
It's a bit of a hostile environment. For the men's program, unfortunately, they went down to an unbelievably high percentage shooting men's team from Canberra, who probably had their best shooting night of the whole year.
While the women's side was feeling confident ahead of its match against Canberra, the team couldn't pull through either.
We played 3 quarters particularly well, and then Lizzie Tonks, who's their best player, came back to life. We'd done a great job in the first half, and unfortunately we couldn't keep it going.
Although both sides are coming off a loss, they're taking it as a lesson, now focused on this weekend's doubleheader.
Our groups are very resilient. So I look at the men's and the women's programs, and we have some really amazing athletes that don't get down.
The men's certainly has its work cut out for them, facing the Bulls and the Hornets.
Now they play the 2 best teams, or 2 of the best teams in their ladder, so they have some work to do, but I think they're ready for the task.
The women will tackle the lowest ranked side, Inner West, but the real focus is the Hills Hornets.
We're looking at them to be middle of the ladder, and we'd really like to steal their spots, so we're going to come out, give it our best shot.
Both Sunday games are taking place at home in Terrigal, hoping to see a big turnout.
When we have our crowd behind us, you can see the energy for the team just increase exponentially.
Sophie Scanlon, NBN News.
The Wallaroos are hopeful they can tip the scales of their season in the right direction in their clash with the Karakari Bulldogs over the weekend. After 4 wins, 4 losses and an nail-biting defeat to the Macquarie Scorpions in the Newcastle Rugby League, this Saturday is a must-win as the second half of the season approaches.
A small mistake to make.
I tackle over here.
But this kick gave Macquarie 2 points in the bag from the get-go. Despite the Roos answering next, the Scorpions stayed close behind, eventually taking lead, forcing the boys at home to play catch-up. The boot of Lachlan Hannigan getting them close.
Yep.
But not close enough, missing out on 2 points by just 2 points. Captain coach Mitch Williams admitting making the most of crucial moments is a work in progress for 2022.
A lot of impressive efforts, but it seems to be the story of our season at the moment, putting ourselves in really good spots and then not capitalising with the win.
The next opportunity to do so against the Kurri Bulldogs. Although the boys in blue currently sit second last, Williams says taking them on at home is always a challenge, prompting a few preemptive changes.
Not so much of a shake-up, but just trying a few new things, working on our combinations, getting settled in towards the season. We're nearly at the halfway stage now.
And the Roos coach concedes there's a vested interest in the Entrance Tigers.
They're probably in a similar boat to us. Probably a few close losses, a few games they probably would have liked to win, but I'm sure I'll keep a closer eye on them next week when we take them on again.
Wyong take on the Bulldogs this Saturday at 3 in the Hunter. Will DeFulvio, NBN News.
Meanwhile, Tamworth sports fans will have plenty to choose from this June-long weekend, with 3 major competitions being held. There'll be events running for baseball, gymnastics and hockey, all with the backing of the local council.
Tamworth Baseball Association is gearing up for its largest event of the year, the June long weekend, shaping up to be a big one.
About 100
20 games of baseball are going to be played, and around just over 700 athletes will be here to play baseball for the weekend. Looking great.
The event will run alongside the Gymnastics Country Capital Cup and the Open Men's Hockey Field State Championships. There's so much sport on that some teams can't even attend.
We're probably 6 teams down on last year, and that's mainly due to accommodation was the main factor.
But a sweetener has come thanks to Tamworth Regional Council, voting at last night's meeting to waive the fees for competition venue costs.
And everybody in the community gets a great benefit out of the thousands of people who will come here and either participate or be spectators at either of those 3 events.
And they're very generous, and so we're thankful we can keep our costs down for the player competition. Based on that, makes it more affordable for them to turn up.
45 teams have nominated for the Baseball Carnival so far, including 5 from Tamworth and, for the first time, a women's grade.
So women will play against women. It's a bit tough when they're playing against men because the men are a little bit stronger, but generally speaking, we're looking forward to that.
Jessica Warboys, NBN News.
Atari soccer coach says players are walking away from the sport as wet weather causes major disruptions. Jeff Summers is calling on the Mid-Coast Council to build synthetic fields and says it could eliminate the problem.
Rain, rain, go away. Let our kids play. If only it were that easy. Months of wet weather has soaked fields and brought sport to a standstill across the region.
The mental health of the children suffering. I've seen a lot of kids getting upset and not knowing sort of what to do when they don't have their football.
Football Academy coach Jeff Summers says children are leaving in droves, unable to play, barely able to train on the wet grounds. Coastal Premier League and elite performance squads also suffering.
They can only train once compared to the 3 times their counterparts in Newcastle can train. They need a good surface to play on. At the moment, we're training indoors, in car parks, on tennis courts.
With no end to the wet weather in sight, there are calls for synthetic fields in Taree and Foster.
This facility will allow, games to be played. There won't be catch-up games, training.
But Mid-Coast Council says it's not practical.
We've got to look at an appropriate site. We need to essentially do a whole with earthworks. Obviously, very, very similar to a synthetic hockey field. There's then ongoing maintenance costs in terms of replacing the turf.
Leaving towns between Spears Point and Coffs Harbour without a place to play.
We would need to seek significant grant funding from either the state or the federal government to support a new service of that nature.
The focus now, getting local fields back up to scratch, calling on local clubs to lend a hand.
Even then, it's so wet underfoot that any play on most of our fields at the moment is going to cause significant damage.
Rob Douglas, NBN News.
Anyway, the weather for Newcastle and also the rest of northern New South Wales is coming up after the break. To the local weather, it was partly cloudy while the rest was really sunny today. And of course, it all but happened right throughout Newcastle as well as for northern New South Wales, of course there'll be morning fog and then mostly sunny tomorrow. Meanwhile, tomorrow, Newcastle could see a minimum of 11 metres with a maximum of 21 metres. It will have morning fog, then mostly sunny. There will be a 10% chance of any rain. And also, there's a patchy morning fog, mostly sunny afternoon with light winds. Now to the 7-day town forecast, and of course, Newcastle had 11 to 21, and of course, Toronto had 9 to 21, and Wallsend had 10 to 21. While the Hunter tomorrow could also be the same. Of course, there could be the chance of fog about the There could be partly cloudy tomorrow, and of course, the chance of fog about the lower Hunter, in the early morning, the chance of a thunderstorm in the afternoon and evening, lower light winds, overnight temperatures falling to around 9 with daytime temperatures reaching between 18 and 21. Meanwhile, Newcastle had 11 to 21, while Maitland had 9 to 21. Singleton had 10 to 20, so too did Gosford. And also Scone had 9 to 20. And here's what it's like tomorrow for the Central Coast, and of course Gosford will be alright. And of course there'll be morning fog and mostly sunny with a minimum 10 degrees and a maximum of 20 by tomorrow. There'll be a patchy morning fog and a mostly sunny afternoon with lightly winds. And of course, a 7-day forecast, it was 10 to 20 for Gosford and 14 to 19 for the entrance. A lot of sun also occurred right up the New England northwest, and of course, that's on the same tomorrow. And of course, there's a minimum of 8 degrees with a maximum of 22, mostly sunny with light winds. Meanwhile, the forecasts are for Tamworth with 8 to 22. There's 10 to 22 for both Morley and Narrabri, while Ballaba has 6 to 21. And of course, Gunnedah has 8 to 22. Corindi has 7 to 22. And also Walgett 10 to 21, while Wyeolda has 11 to 23 and Weewar has 10 to 22. To the mid-north coast for tomorrow, and of course it'll be very cloudy with a very high chance of showers. The chance of a thunderstorm from the late morning to light winds. The minimum is 14 metres with a maximum of 21 metres. Meanwhile, the forecast, of course, for the next 7 days, of course, for Coffs Harbour for 14 to 21, while Port Macquarie has 12 to 22, and there's 11 to 21 for Taree, 11 to 22 for Kempsey, and there's 11 to 21 also for Foster, while Bulahdelah has 10 to 21, and also there's 10 to 16 for Dolago, while Nambucca Heads has 13 to 21, and Warhope has 11 to 22, and the Barrington Tops has 4 to 11. And finally, to the Northern Rivers. Now tomorrow it'll be really wet, and of course with a minimum 13 degrees and a maximum of 20 degrees. It'll be cloudy with a very high chance of showers, with the chance of a thunderstorm from the late morning with light winds. Also, the possible rainfall is of 8 to 15 millimetres. Now for the 7-day town forecast, and of course, Tweed Heads had 15 to 22, Lismore had 13 to 20, while Byron Bay had 16 to 20, and Ballina had 15 to 21. Meanwhile, Grafton had 13 to 22, Evans had 15 to 21. Also, Murwillumbah had 15 to 22, while Yamba had 15 to 21 as well. And that's about it for now, and don't forget I'll be back the same time tomorrow night. But also, from now, from all of us here, good night.